So today I'm joined with Horacio, someone who was described to me also as living history of Barcelona startup growth. It's kind of it's my kind of it's my honor really to ask Horacio about the history of Social Point, and I really want to spend the next hour kind of hopefully sharing his experience and also exploring a bit about Barcelona and why it's an exciting place to start a games company. And just one kind of quick sentence about myself. My name is Michael Chung, and I run Makers Fund, which is an investment fund that focuses on the gaming industry. So, Horacio, I want to take us back. It's 2008, Zynga's a year old, Facebook games is all the rage. How on earth do you start Social Point? What happened?
Well, hi, Michael, and it's a pleasure to be here with you again. Another great year at Gamelab. We started in 2008 because it's when we finished university. So we didn't choose a year. We just finished university. We wanted to make something different than working for an IT company. We wanted to make something to have fun. And we thought video games was a great opportunity for us to have this fun, no? And to make our own business, not to make a huge company, just to have a job and have fun. And then we saw the opportunity to make one type of game that we had in our head, to make it really social, because it's when Facebook started to be big in Europe. At this time, Zynga, for example, even didn't exist. When we started making games in Facebook, there was just really ugly quizzes and a couple of companies, Playfish and another one, and we were like the third, not company, a studio that pretended to make games. So we launched the first game in 1 of January of 2008, just starting the year we launched the game. And it was really cool because just in a couple of days we had 60,000 people who played the game, and we saw that there was something really big there. No? So I think we were lucky, or we saw the opportunity to make games in a space where people was not used to play games, but they were willing to interact with people. We make a game that was really innovative. There didn't exist something similar nowhere in the market. And we did something that was really social. And I think that had a really good fit with Facebook, and that's how we started, Andres and me.
Right. So you started on the 1st of January 2008, right?
Yep.
So I'm sure there were a lot of challenges, a lot of learnings as you launched your first game, second game, third game. Could you share with us a few of the things that you experienced and what did you learn from it?
Well, first 2 years, they were really, really hard because even if this first game had some success in terms of users, we were never be able to get some money because it had a complicated business model. And we had really limited money at this time. We had just 60,000 euros that we get from the family, which was a lot of money for us at this time. But you know, to start a business or to start a company, it's not huge. But with these 60,000 euros, we had enough to pay just the basics, no? To pay the light, to pay the phone. And our first challenge was to how we can set up a team, because we were just 2 at the moment, how we can create a team that help us to make better games and faster games. And then we started convincing people to join the project, even if they didn't have a salary in the first years, but with the aspiration to someday start making money, you know, and be able to start having our own jobs in that way. And that was one of the first challenges, to create a team and find the right people. The second challenge was that our first game was successful in users, so we have few thousand users playing every day the game, but no money. So then we said, okay, we need to make something to start creating money soon. And then we had to pivot several times our strategy until we find something that make money for the company. We started making casual games like King does today, so bubble shooters and match 3 games and things like that. So we launched a lot of these games in Facebook during 1 year, and every game helped us to have more and more users. And at this time, we were monetizing or making revenue, putting banners up and down from the game. And with these first ad revenues, then we were able to have the first income in the company and to start investing into hiring better people for the team. We did that. We hired 2, 3 guys, senior developers, much better than me or Andres as a developers. And then we follow our passion at this time was try to make something disruptive at Facebook. At this time, there was only farm builds. I'm talking about 2010 now. There was farm builds or very simple games like that. And we wanted to bring a much deeper experience. So I'm a passionate of Age of Empires 2. I believe it's one of the best games in the history. I expect Microsoft launches the new version soon or say something, but we'll see. And we wanted to bring this experience, this strategy, this RTS experience to Facebook. And then we built Social Empires. We were 1 year coding the game. We launched Social Empires in Facebook. It was also our first free-to-play title. And it was really successful since the very beginning because we were offering something new, fun, and deep into the platform. Thanks to this game, we got the attention of some investors. And finally, we were able to have our first run in 2011.
Let's actually talk a bit about how many games you made before you really found your first big success. Like, how many did you go through? And
so between 2009 and between 2008 and 2011, I think we did 30 games.
30?
Yeah, we did games sometimes in a week, sometimes in 3 weeks, really basic games. Sometimes we copy code from other games, sometimes we steal code, sometimes we did a lot of crazy things. Sometimes we buy code, sometimes we did everything possible to try to launch games in a way that we could attract some users and grow our user base. It was like a hacking mentality. At that time, Facebook was also promoting this mentality, and we did that.
And I guess to all those, the founders here who are also in a very similar phase in their studio or their company, what advice would you share with them to help get to that big first success?
Well, first recommendation I will get from any studio here is try to go for funding as soon as possible. I know that most of you prefer to work into the game as a developer or as an artist and keep building your game and keep making it better and better, but I think it's important you understand that sometimes games, they need a funding behind, and that should be part of your responsibility the same way it is coding the game. No? So maybe you should invest 50% of your time trying to get this funding. Try to talk with any investor, anybody you know that could be interested into investing in game, even if it's early. Go to your prototype. Try to explain why you think your prototype or your game could become a really high successful game in this competitive market. And I think that will be my first advice. It took too long for me to get the first round of investment. And it was very positive, this investment, because it changed a lot how we thought in the company. That what I would recommend is to go earlier to look for the investment. And thanks, 9 years ago, 10 years ago, there was not too much investors looking for gaming. But today, you are an example. No? There is many VCs and angel investors and people who can do the seed that they are interested into funding games. So I think you're in a better position right now. It's not easy, it's challenging, but if you devote 50% of your time and you try it one time, this is, sorry for making the parallax, like trying to look for a girlfriend or a boyfriend. No, it takes time, it is difficult, but if you insist and persist, and you socialize a lot, maybe finally you can meet somebody.
And that's a funny analogy. And just to kind of throw in my 2 cents here about raising money, I think it really is important to try to think about the long-term relationship with your investors. And in a similar way, where if you go to find your prospective girlfriend or boyfriend for the first time and ask them, "Hey, will you date me?" it's probably not going to work. So my advice here as someone also who meets a lot of founders and talks to a lot of entrepreneurs looking to raise money, I think it's very important to try to create the kind of long-term relationship. Try not to make it the first time you talk to someone to ask them for funding. Try to ask for their advice. Try to really get a few people around you, like Horacio or like other founders who've done it before, to help kind of mentor you and answer the easy questions so that they can help you really get it right the first time without kind of struggling too much as you really go to raise funding.
Correct. And one advice, don't be afraid that if you have something new to share it with people thinking that they could copy you. Nobody is going to copy you. And asking for feedback from all type of people, investors or people from gaming or people from outside, it's part of your job. So wherever you have, share it with everybody, ask for feedback, and like that, you will meet people that finally they will be willing to invest into your project.
So let's talk a little bit about, actually, as you said, Horacio, your first fundraise. So you started Social Point 2008. You got the first funding in 2011.
Yep.
So 3 years. Maybe could you share a little bit about how was the lead up to raising funding for the first time 3 years into the company? And what was the point where you said, right now, this is the time where we really need money?
Look, at Social Point, we have been very humble, and the first time it was very difficult for us to raise money because there was almost no people in Spain, and our English was so bad. So it was impossible, no, in that sense. When we started to learn English and we started to attract, we started to appear in the rankings of Facebook like one of the 10 companies with more users in the world. That started to get some attraction. But finally, we met one really good partner from here, from Spain, that they had really big experience growing companies, and we like it a lot, the fact that they were entrepreneurs before. And that's something that I will recommend for all of you when you choose your investors and your partners. If you can find investors that they have been entrepreneurs before, I think it is much easier because they will understand you much better, if they understand gaming better, and if they are passionate. Because in gaming, sometimes, and you know it, and it happens in the Paris market, people expect all the time that you succeed. Every game you launch, it has to be good. It doesn't happen like that. It's a really difficult industry. It's a creative industry, like movies, and you have to launch and to try several things until you find the right thing that connect with the users, that surprises the users. No? And that's why it's so important to have this passion and to keep persisting with one idea, with one opportunity, and with one team until you find whatever makes this game successful.
And how was the process of really trying to share the story and vision to your first investors? What were your learnings from that experience, and perhaps could you share a few anecdotes or maybe even cheats on how you really managed to get that first check? Because I imagine a lot of people in the room who are trying to do the same thing right now.
Let's say that we had several opportunities. We had one game that was working well. It was called Social Empires, and that's why we attract the attention of these investors and other investors. And then it was an easy sell, let's say, to find for this raising, because we had already the game that was working well, which is not necessary. That's what I repeat. I think you should go before a game is working well to look for money, not just after when something is working well. And in our case, it was easy. In our case, it was difficult, the negotiation, because we were very juniors, and contracts are long, are deep, and you need lawyers, and it was hard. I will say that it's just a hard moment. You need to go through it, get good advice from good lawyers, and that's all. No? But at the end, everything it's into the people. If you trust the people that you are going to partner, the contract it's not that important as it looks. So it's very important that you have this feeling that you can trust on the people that you're going to partner.
And I guess after you got that first investment, did things go to plan? Was it a pure success and everything went great and
nothing
money
in gaming,
was thrown at you?
Nothing in gaming, at least for us, go as we plan. Everything goes different. The projects that we believe the most, they were not successful. Projects that we were not so sure, they were super successful. So I don't know what I have learned in these 10 years, but I don't know what's going to work or what's not. This is one of my first learnings. No, when this first investor started the company, we professionalized it a lot, the company. We grew the team from 20 people to 70 to 80 people, and that was a huge growth for us because it allowed us to work in multiple games in parallel. And then looking for the international investor was much more difficult because at this time, I think it was difficult for international investors to believe that big companies could happen in Spain or Barcelona. Luckily, today, this is the past, and we know that Barcelona it's one of the best cities for startups in the world, and there is a lot of investors that they are willing to look for these startups to invest, and I'm so happy about that. So 2 years after this investment, the company was doing well, we were growing, we had our challenges, and we went to look for investment. We had to go to a lot of investors, around 20, until we achieved the 2 of them, Greylock and IDinvest. They saw the potential on Social Point and they invested. And I think it was really good, this combination, because IDinvest had experience in gaming, Greylock has experience in big international companies like Facebook or LinkedIn, and that gave us the ambition to think big. And the combination of the 3 investors that we had, it worked very well. One advice, I have been always very transparent with my investors. In all of our board meetings, I explained it to them what was working good, what was working bad, without any fear. Because at the end, these people, they are much older than me. They have had much more experienced than me, and they are here for helping me to make the company better. So there is nothing of saying, hey, we did that wrong, we burned some money in marketing or things like that.
And you said it was challenging to find the first international investor.
Yes.
Do you think there's any kind of thing different you had to do in order to attract Greylock or attract another larger fund to your company?
Well, that was before, luckily, as I say, that was 2013 or 14. The international investors thought that Spanish company, they were only thinking on Spanish market. No? It is, if you go for international investors and you make them understand that you are not thinking just in Spain, you are thinking worldwide, and that you have the ambition and the strategy to create a really big company, as if you were from London or from Silicon Valley, I think they will like it. What they pretend to avoid sometimes it's invest in really small companies that they are happy just being, a good company in Barcelona.
So, in summary, you think show the vision, show that you have a global aspiration.
Correct.
And that's really the secret.
Correct.
To attracting the international.
And luckily for us here, all of us we work in video games, which is it's a really global market by itself. No? So distribution channels, they are today much easier, and there is nothing that tells us that we could be successful in even Asian countries. No? So it is important that when you design the game, you understand that your audience is not just you and your group of friends here. It's global, and you have to realize how an American is going to play this game, how an European, etc.
I guess you raised multiple times, and fast forward a few years, and now it's 2017, and it's announced that you were acquired by Take-Two. Tell us a bit about how that happened. Why Take-Two? Why then?
So we raised the money with these investors. 2 years after, we had another extra investor for the growth. The company has been always growing and doing so great, but at Social Point, we have always been very big learners. We are very curious, and we always like to learn. And we had, in 2017, several opportunities to partner with bigger companies than us, and we thought that Take-Two was our best partner because we can learn a lot from them. No? They have been in the industry much more time for us. They are responsible of one of the best hits in the gaming history with Rockstar and 2K. And for us, the possibility of learning a lot from them, because we think also the mobile industry, it's becoming more and more competitive, a little bit like the AAA, and somehow it's a part of users are merging in both platforms, so there's something that we could learn. And they are also a company that they give a lot of independency and autonomy to all their studios. So we can decide the portfolio of games that we do and how we do them, and they just try to help us when we need, but they give us all this ownership and independency, and we like it a lot, this fact. So we thought that it was good for Social Point to keep growing and keep making better games, to be part of a larger group, and have this place where we can learn and that we can make things with them. So that's why we decided finally to go with them 2.5 years ago. And so far, I have to say it has been great. I think we are today a much better company than 3 years ago. And the type of projects that we are working now at Social Point, they are much ambitious than the ones that we were working 3 years ago. So it helped us to keep inspiring us on making games that they can really become hugely popular. No?
And you mentioned earlier the very first time you took funding back in 2011. You learned a lot about contracts, lawyers. When you had a second go at it again, in 2017, was it a lot smoother? Any learnings as you were being bored and you have kind of the mountain of contracts from the lawyers?
It was different. It was a challenge, no? But it was let's say you need to negotiate a lot of aspects that not only affects you, that affects the whole company, the employees, but everything went smooth because the deal was very good for everybody. Let's say that it was just making things right, making communications right, and explain and making sure that we covered all the angles. But of course, let's say there is a lot of challenges, organizational, legally, but it's a nice problem to have, let's say, when you are in that situation. I will not be afraid of never being acquired or partner. I think it's normal in the gaming industry to let's say, make bigger companies or that the studios be part of something which is bigger, or sometimes the studios are merger. It's part of this nature, no? It's people who want to work with people, teams that they become bigger, and if you do things right and you are transparent and you think a lot in the long term and you are aligned with your new partner, what you want to do in the long term, nothing problematic should happen. The problem is that if you don't say the truth or if you are not aligned with what you want to do.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier Barcelona, exciting place. You started your studio here. You know, the last few years we've seen King, Scopely, Ubi. There are more and more international companies opening studios here. So what do you think it is about Barcelona that makes it such a, you know, an exciting place for the gaming industry?
It's a good question. So when we started in Barcelona, well, we started here because we live here and we believe this is the best city in the world. And I have many arguments that I could share with you, but I have traveled a lot and I strongly believe this is the best city of the world. When we started here, there was already really, let's say, successful companies with a lot of talent, like there was Novarama, there was Gamelab, there was Digital Legends, they still are. Novarama just presented last week an incredible game in the E3, and I hope that they have a lot of success with this great game. But it's true that maybe 7-8 years ago, Barcelona didn't have the visibility of having, of being a really potential city to making video games. When we started, we were really small, but when we started to grow really fast and we became more than 100 people and making more than $100 million, let's say that we helped to put Barcelona in the map for people who works in the video games industry. And that helped to all these international companies to realize, oh, okay, there is also big successful games that can be done from Barcelona. And then when you come to the city and you see all the talent that it's here, that has been always here. Barcelona always had high artistic talent for everything, because our architect, our painters historically, no? So I think the talent was always here. We have been always a city that loves to play this video game, and we needed just to have the space or the ecosystem that allowed the people to create their own games. So I think we helped to put Barcelona in the map of video games, and then all the international companies, probably the acquisition of Take-Two also helped realize that here, big companies, they can grow, they can be profitable, and it's a really good spot to be. And I'm really, really happy about how the ecosystem is building. Like you said, every week I listen to a new company that wants to open a studio here, and I think this is something great that it's going to benefit all of us. I think video games industry could be a big driver for growth economy in the city and also in the country. And I hope that administration and all of the people that we work in this industry, we make things right to make it happen. But I can imagine in a few years, Barcelona being the best city in Europe to make video games, because we have a combination of talent, the city, and the context where really creative and innovative games can happen.
And I think, you know, another interesting thing is, you know, I spent the last few months just asking everyone, hey, like in different cities, what is it about the city that is helping to create a very healthy gaming and developer ecosystem? You know, I was in Copenhagen, and I was talking with all of the kind of, you know, the medium and small and large studios there, and you know, they meet every month and they share what their learnings are. They talk, and you know, they're all friends. And you go to Finland, and of course in Helsinki, they have a very similar kind of relationship with each other. They all know each other. They have kind of these gentlemen's agreements about what they can do, what they can't do, but they share. And you know, we were talking about this earlier, Horacio, you know, about Barcelona, and saying, okay, look, you know, now we're at the stage where the big companies see Barcelona as important. They have a studio. So, you know, how can we really, now that we have the people, the talent, kind of the momentum, how can we really accelerate and foster, you think, the community here and make sure that it continues to grow?
I think there is many things we can do, no? First of all, even if now it's better to get funding than years ago, there is a lot of things we can go. We need more angels investors, we need more funding, we need more teams like them that they look for this funding. The big companies, they try to find a way to somehow support the small companies. The administration needs to do a lot. So I think naturally the ecosystem will keep growing step by step. But all of us that we are here, we can do several things. About you say that being more open, I think Barcelona is an extremely open city with everybody. Everybody is welcome here. Everybody finds his own place, and that makes people feel right here, no, to settle. Between gaming companies, we don't share still that much. It's true that we start now to meet every 6 months, something like that. But we need more culture of sharing, of being transparent, of sharing my issues with my projects or my success, in order that all of us we keep learning from the success and from the failures from everybody. So this could be a couple of things, no, that we could do.
Yeah. And on the topic of transparency, I think maybe now we can kind of open up the floor a bit. Perhaps the audience may have a few questions for you and about Social Point of Barcelona.
I wanted just to share one thing more before we go to the question, if you want. In the last 5 years or 10 years, we have done a lot of games, probably apart from the 30 in the beginning, more than 15 big projects. Some of them have succeeded, some of them has failed. And that's very important to you to understand that gaming it's a long path, it's a long journey, and sometimes you will need to fail several times until you succeed. That's why you need to be persistent in the games that you are working, pivot them if it's necessary until you find the right formula. But if eventually you realize that your game is not going to succeed enough, don't be afraid of cancel it and change to another game. And my last learnings from the mobile industry or in general, today there is a lot of people in the world which is making games, and the market, they are ultra competitive. That means that making a great game, it's not enough. Even you have to do the best game in something, which is usually very difficult because there is a strong competitors, or what it could work more, it's that you make something which is extremely innovative and something that can really surprise the users. This is what we are trying to do lately at Social Point. We have been changing our strategy, especially in the last year. Now we are working much more harder in trying to discover big innovations in mobile that can surprise the user, because otherwise it's difficult to make a product that goes big, that can become viral, and that can become really successful. No? Another important learning is learn a lot about your audience. Because that's key. If you start building a game and you are not sure about which is your audience, it's better you stop, you think about which is the audience that you try to target, and then you try to do something which has a big value for them. I was reading a couple of days ago Why and Them Failed from EA, and it looks that they were trying to please two really different audiences, and they were not achieved to please one audience or the other, no? The narratives or the well, anyway. It is important to understand who is going to be your audience and how you make something that they really value. And something that we do at Social Point now that it helps us a lot, it's try to test with your audience as soon as possible. It's not just launching in soft launch or making a beta or wherever it's. Even if you have an experiment, try to get some audience, share the product, ask them what they like, what they don't like, ask them if they will play, ask them if they will be a real promoter of this game, and depends on that, adapt your game and keep with the journey of making a really innovative game. No? All of that, it's very important. Another advice, big teams versus small teams. I'm really big defender of small teams. We tried both at Social Point. We had teams sometimes up to 30 people, and we had a game, for example, Champions Destiny, that we were working on this game close to 3 years and a half, $12 million investment. At this time, we were trying to do the first MOBA in mobile before Arena of Valor or Mobile Legends appeared. So just we were fans of League of Legends. We said, let's try to see if we can launch this game in mobile. And it is really hard to work with a big team and try to innovate, because it's hard to align everybody. You know, this is not the reason why the game didn't succeed. The game didn't succeed because I took personally some wrong decisions, like making, for example, the gameplays too short, from 3 to 5 minutes, because I thought that was fitting well with mobile. And then I discovered that those people, the real people who like MOBAs, are really hardcore gamers, and they prefer the full experience of 10, 15 minutes and grow your character during the game. And other things, no? Time to market also affected us because other games were launched before us. But I'm mixing now certain things, but what we are seeing lately that works very, very well is when you have a small team of people with complementary skills, that they have passion about one specific opportunity, and they align each other and pursue this opportunity, the level of innovation and creativity grows, because there is the right ambience where crazy ideas can be discussed, can be listened, and can be raised. No? And when you work in a really big team of 30 people, 40 people, what you try to do normally is to have a longer roadmap where everything is better scheduled in order that you produce better or more. No? That decreases the chances to be innovative or to make the pivots when they are necessary. That's why I think most of the teams here and in other industries, they are really small, and I think this is the right way to go. And also try to surround yourselves with people which is different and complementary like you. If all of you know how to do the exact same thing in the same way, it usually doesn't work. That's why the classic story of a developer with an artist with somebody that usually works because they have different set of skills that all together they can do a great game. So that was a few things that I wanted to...
I really like it, and I just want to emphasize, I think some of the things you shared, there were some really good things in there, Horacio. Just as general advice, right, to a founder of a studio. I think it's really important to really start small and just get things out there. Don't be scared to build the great thing, the greatest thing, and to perfect everything. We're kind of living in a world now where it's easier than before just to soft launch something, put something out there, get feedback. There are so many platforms and ways to do it without having to spend a lot of money, and also just launch stuff. Because I think often, as you were saying before, things don't turn out as you plan. But the good thing is sometimes surprising things happen. And it's the second iteration, the third iteration, the fourth iteration, where really you discover something maybe you never thought about. And that becomes really exciting, not just from a creation perspective, but also just from an innovation and eventually an investor perspective. And I really would encourage anyone here who's really looking to build something, to just put things out there. And as you talk to angels, VCs, investors, and whatnot, I think having that story and being able to tell a story that you put things out there, you learn these things, and you're now building this third game or fourth game, and this is what's different from everyone else. I think that is very, very compelling, and that's really what I think is going to attract international investors to Barcelona, right? Not here's another match 3, or this is a MOBA, but I've changed this one mechanic as a battle royale MOBA, right? Like that isn't going to really set the world on fire. And I guess all of the players and the gamers in the room here would know that. So I really like that point.
I fully agree. Most of our failures in the last years, it has been because we have done what we call derivative games. So games that they change that or that mechanic, or we mix it with Royal, like you said, and we think we are doing something new. But we are not, definitely. There is something that already has this spot in the market. And most of our big success has been when we have been the first ones of bringing a unique experience. For example, with Dragon City, we were the first one to bring this Pokemon, let's say, creatures, monsters, and dragons, and we were able to breed them to create our own breed and fight with them in a turn-based battle. All of that experience were new when we launched them in Facebook and mobile, and of course, people was willing to play these things.
Yeah, I mean, even before we were meeting today, I was just having lunch with Brendan Green, who did a panel yesterday. And he Battle Royale was just this mod that he made for H1Z1, and I think PUBG eventually really was just like an innovation, just trying something new because he really believed in it. And then what does he do 3, 4, 5 years on? He says, I'm not making a Battle Royale game anymore. Why? Because it's a derivative, right? Perfecting the formula isn't going to change the industry. I think really what he clearly knows very well is you've got to innovate and do something crazy. That's the only way that you can really create something amazing and kind of, I think, to create the second or third social point of Barcelona or Spain. I think that's really the kind of thinking that a developer or an entrepreneur needs to really focus on.
Yep, I agree.
So, unless you have any other good sage advice, Horacio, and I guess you're hiring as well, right?
Yes, we keep hiring like always. We keep looking for people passionate on making games. Yeah. And if you have any interest or do you find some of our positions interesting, please look at the Social Point website or LinkedIn and try to apply.
Yeah, fantastic. So on that note, any questions for Horacio? Raise your hand if you have any questions, and maybe we'll try to point. None? There's one at the front, just here, in the black shirt.
Hi. Bye. If you want to hire someone, what's the first you look to hire this person? The CV or?
It's three things. No, we look at the experience on the person, which normally it's represented in the CV. We look at his talents, his skills. If you are a developer, so we need to somehow check how good are you as a developer. We have certain tests for that. But then what is more important for us is our cultural values. Every company has its own culture. We have a really specific and unique culture, and we try to make sure everybody who joins fit with the culture, because if you want to create the right space where people can innovate and be creative, you have to feel this culture natural for you.
Any others? Oh, in the front here.
Hello. You said that you are starting to make bigger projects than before. My question is, you do that because you are bigger than before, or you do because you think that this is the way to go in mobile and social gaming?
Yes, so it's it's more because of the second. And when I was thinking or telling about bigger, it's not necessarily bigger investment or bigger people. In fact, the projects that we are doing now, it's half of the investment that the ones that we have been doing in the last 5 years. It's more on the ambitious. Let's say, before we were trying sometimes to be opportunistic and to say, okay, if that type of game is working, let's try if we can do our own thing with our own flavor. And this doesn't work. It can work maybe for some Chinese companies that they are really fast on making copycats. What we are trying to do is, for example, how we could do our own Rocket League. How we could make a new sports games in mobile that has some fantasy elements and that can be something really, really big, can become a top 10 grossing. We are trying to make games with this ambitious because that forces us and help us to be more creative and to innovate. This is when I was talking about size, I was referring to the ambitious of making something that could be really, really, really innovative. Not the investment that we do behind, that it can vary a lot depending on the game. And we are trying always to do it with small people, because we realize that if you have the right people, you encourage that they follow their passion, that they are creative, innovative, and that they are efficient also, so they understand how to bring big value, but in competitive times, let's say, then it's when the magic happens. Before, for example, sometimes we were making games that we were clearly aiming to the top 100, top 200 grossing. Now we are only trying to do top 10, top 20 grossing. Even we know, sorry, most of the times we'll fail. And that's important to understand in our DNA, that we'll try a lot of things, but sometimes after a few months we'll need to drop it and to start working on something else, which is something that you need to accept and to be trained as a team, because people normally fall in love with the games that they do. It's normal, but if you aspire to make something really, really big, you need to be demanding with yourself, and you need to understand that a bigger opportunity is waiting for you.
Hi, Horacio.
Hey.
Do you feel responsible of trying to help the Spanish mobile ecosystem to grow? And what things could you do for us, for small companies who are trying to create future social points?
I don't feel fully responsible, but I think I help it a little bit, and I'm proud of that, to have helped Barcelona to become a bigger city in terms of video games creation. For example, when I met King, it was 2012. King were 100 people only, all of them in Stockholm. They were just having games in website. They came to Barcelona to visit us, Ricardo Sacconi and the company, and then they meet Barcelona and they meet us thanks to us. Few years later, they launched Candy Crush, and they opened his really big studio in Barcelona. And I'm so proud if I contributed to that help it. So I think maybe I was lucky, because I had the opportunity to launch games worldwide that people knew that they were done in Barcelona, and I was lucky to to show that there was a lot of talent in Barcelona, but the talent was already there. This is not on me. What we can do, companies like us, so a lot of things, no? We are hiring a lot of international people. I think that will help to bring more people here from the game industry that eventually they could fund their own companies and they could start making new startups here. We are talking every month with all the international investors to explain them what is going on in Barcelona, and some of them, they are asking us constantly if we know any startup that they could invest. So we are still talking with all the international stakeholders to explain them that, hey, a lot of things here are moving. What we could do in the future, we could invest directly. You know? For example, Take-Two has a division which is called private, a label which is called Private Division, that they invest in indie games for console and PC. I would love in the future, in 1 or 2 years, to be able to do that through Social Point and to invest in small companies here. But we'll need a little bit of time to be ready to do that. And I think bigger companies eventually will start doing that. We cooperate with some universities and with some programs. We finance some projects, but we don't still look proactively for talented groups like you to move funding. But that's something that I would love to do in the midterm, let's say. But we are very busy now at Social Point, and we need to choose between doing A or B, and for the moment we follow with our internal studios. But I'm sure soon we'll start opening to other studios also. And also another thing that we are doing is we do a lot of outsourcing. Sometimes we outsource part of our games, the art, the sound. Sometimes even we co-develop. That could be good opportunities also to follow.
One more trend, actually, I think, as well. And I think it's not necessarily a good thing for Social Point, but I think it's a reality, and every games company is experiencing this, such as King, is I think a lot of the people that have spent many years, early employees of Social Point, of King, they eventually want to go build something. Mm-hmm. And I think these people, when they leave and then they go on to build their company, I think they've had the learnings of the tough times of growing with the company. And I think working with those people and supporting them is something that will essentially help the local ecosystem too. And I see it as inevitable, really. And that's how a lot of the successful kind of gaming companies are born, right? Ex-Supercell employees, ex-Rovio employees, ex-Riot, and eventually ex-Social Point, yep, where they've trained under you and now gone on. They want to replicate, yep, what you've gone on to do.
Yeah, it happens. It's natural, and I think this is really good for the ecosystem.
Absolutely.
As much people there is working in Barcelona in video games, the better it will be for all the gaming industry in general. So that's good.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned 10 years ago you didn't know anything about English, right? And I'm sure you didn't know anything about investment terms or language. How did you manage to learn all this stuff? And I don't know, tips or, the internet is filled with things you can learn, right? But how do you get through the clutter and learn what's really important to, start learning about this kind of language and how to talk with investors and,
So first thing, Google.
Yeah, right.
Google everything is on Google, and it's true. If you look for talks, for articles, you will see a lot of great things. Be curious. Sometimes we are a little bit scared of what we don't know, and sometimes we are skeptical to enter into this zone. Don't be afraid of talking about business plan, lawyers, etc. It's natural. That's important for you to know that you are not only game creators, which you are. You are also you should become businessmen in a certain way, which is maybe the part that you consider more boring or more, let's say, ugly, but it is true. You will have to manage a business, no? Eventually, someday, especially if you are successful, and if you're not successful, also. Don't avoid it. Just be curious and try to learn from everybody you can. You can learn a lot from Google. You can go to Barcelona Activa to ask for help. They are good supporters. And talk to people. And sometimes game developers, we tend to be introvert and we like to work in our cave. I was working with Andres 1 year and my home and his home, not talking with anybody. that usually it's not the best way to work. It's better if you work in a co-working, you meet other people, other companies, even if they are not from gaming, they are other technological startups. You met some people from marketing, which is a different profile, but very important also for games. You need to talk and socialize with a lot of people that they are in the startup world, because at the end you are trying to build a startup, not just a game, and you need to lose this fear of talking. I'm saying maybe you don't have, but when I started the company, I was really afraid of talking with people and sharing with people and asking to people, and now I have improved over the years, no? But it's normal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think just ask lots of questions. Ask other founders who've raised money. Don't be afraid to meet people and cold email them just to ask for advice. I think you'll be surprised just how generous people will be who want to really help and support other people in the industry.
Cold email the people, send LinkedIn messages, everything. You will need to be very proactive. Nobody's going to give you something. You will need to look for it. But people in the startups industry or in the gaming industry, it tends to be quite open and friendly. So most of the times you will get surprised about how much people wants to help you.
Hi, Horacio. My question is about the change of the company from a small company to a biggest company. Social Point started being a small company. How did you manage the decisions then, and how do you it now, being a much bigger company, and how did you manage the change personally?
Well, it is really hard for all the companies to grow from 2 employees to 350, but it happened to a lot of studios. It happened to King. They grow a lot also, and when you grow, you need to create certain structures, organization. You need to create roles, responsibilities, blah, blah, blah. It's really hard. It's a tough process, and what we have learned with the time is that as simple as you do it the best, you know, these companies that they are super hierarchical and they have a lot of roles and they are super complex, this usually doesn't tend to work, because at the end of the day, what people want is to make the greatest games ever. And what we are doing lately, since a few years, it's let's try to organize the company into really small autonomous teams that they can work as if they were a company, and let's give a lot of trust on them, a lot of autonomy, some guidance, and let's leave them the opportunity to work and to demonstrate, no, that they can deliver a good game. And if they fail, nothing happens. At Social Point, for example, if there is a team that doesn't succeed, we never fire somebody because somebody has not delivered a successful game. It's part of our culture, no? It's for us, failing. It's part of learning, and we need to learn a lot before eventually you launch a successful games. So the path to make the company bigger, we're always trying to hire the best people we could that fitted with our culture, and we try to find an organization with the minimum number of layers, but that somehow we were able to organize and to synchronize between us. We have a lot of independent teams in the company. We have a few transversal teams that they give the best service that they can, and we try to have a really open and transparent communication between all of us to make sure everybody brings their best value to make the best games. Sometimes it works perfectly, sometimes there is some inefficiencies, like in any big organization, but we are always open to make changes in order to improve this organization, which is not a static thing, it's a living thing, and every year or every 2 years there is something we discover we need to change. Also, timings are changing, and the way that people work now is different than the way that people worked 5 years ago. Now we have also different tools. So finding the best way to organize your company or to organize your team, it's key if you want to deliver a good game. That could be also a good advice that I was trying to talk about efficiency. No? It's important that you decide with your team which is your methodology, how much do you want to work. For example, we discovered at Social Point that teams that deliver builds that you could play every week, they tend to be much faster and to deliver higher quality of games, because basically every week they were able to play what they do, and because of that they had some feedback that they implemented. Teams that they deliver every 2 or 3 weeks, builds that you can play. It was a little bit harder to deliver great games. No? So these are things that you learn on the way.
Hello?
Hello.
Here. So at the beginning you said that the people that joined at the first time didn't earn money. So how did you make to encourage them to continue with the project? And did you show them some things you already made?
Did we show them? Sorry, the last part?
Some projects that you already made.
Yeah, we showed to them the projects that we were doing or that we had, the projects that we wanted to do. We explained them our vision that we wanted to build a nice company that make games and that all of us we could live well. We paid them the train, so we pay something, but and we give them some to some people a few shares of the company, or we with other people we promised them that when we had the chance we will contract them officially. But it's about, hey, we want to do that. Do you want to join the adventure? Yes or no? It's an adventure. Maybe you will not get paid during a short period of time, but you will learn a lot. These learnings are going to be crucial, no, in your professional career. Some people will like to join, some people not. But this we do it just with a few people. Then when we started making money, we started offering contracts with low salaries, of course. I don't know if I answered you or yes?
I think the answer is you pay the train fare.
We paid the train, and there was one artist that he loved sushi, and we invited him sushi every Friday.
So you paid for lunch and train fare. Any last question? No. All right. Thank you very much, Horacio.
Thank you, Michael. Pleasure.
Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you.